I now come to the second lecture today, and we will have discussion after some discussion maybe for 10 minutes after both the lectures, and then I will request Professor Rajaram Shukla ji and Professor Barkhedi ji. I think Barkhedi ji has not still joined. I talked to him. He said that he will be coming, and Shukla ji is already here. So the next I will talk briefly.
Barkhedi is also seen, I think.
He has entered. Okay. So after Mahabharata, we take this. Pardon?
Professor Barkhedi is already there.
Okay. So theory of Vada in the Nyaya philosophy and in Carakasamhitā.
I'm very much present here, sir. I'm very much present. Yeah.
Namo Namah. Swagatam Bhavatam. So after Mahabharata, we come to this theory of Vada and Samvada, which includes Samvada also in Nyaya philosophy and in Carakasamhitā. So Carakasamhitā is not, I think, studied. Maybe I am wrong. It is not studied in our philosophy departments as a text in philosophy. But to me, it appears, I tried to, the whole of Carakasamhitā, it is difficult to read, you see, the original edition. But for my purpose, I tried to go through those chapters which deal with the theory of Vada and Samvada. It's a great text in Vada and Samvada. Even it is lengthier than the whole Nyāyasūtra perhaps. And very detailed exposition of the theory of Vada and Samvada for a different purpose, of course. And we will come to that. First, we will discuss the theory of Vada in Nyaya philosophy. तो अब मैं जिस प्रकार से कोई विद्यार्थी बोलता है उस प्रकार से बोलूंगा जितना न्याय में समझता हूँ, because great Nyayikas are here, 2 Nyayikas from Sanskrit world. So they will, you see, explain whatever errors of omission and commission I commit. So the tradition of intellectual discourses, debates and discussions was assiduously pursued for more than a millennia in the philosophical discourses prior to Gautama, the author of Nyāyasūtra. I have already told this. In Carakasamhitā, S.N. Dasgupta and some others say that the system which Carakasamhitā discusses about Vada and Samvada, that is prior to Gautama the Sutrakara. And we come to Nyāyasūtra. The period, of course, is debatable. And he discusses the theory of debate in detail. Out of the 16 padarthas, the very first sutra of Nyāyasūtra enumerates 16 categories: Praman, Prameya, Sanshaya, Prayojan, Drishtant, Siddhant, Tark, Avyav, Nirnay, Vad, Jalp, Vitanda, Hetvabhas, Chal, Jati, Nigrasthana, Tattvajnana, Nishres, Siddhi. Something like that. If you know these 16 categories and have the Tattvajnana of these 16 categories, you attain Nishreyas. This is what Nyāyasūtrakara says. As we discussed yesterday also, that this Tarka pursued properly, the Vada pursued properly, would lead to the emancipation of a human being and of the whole human race as well. So this is what Nyāyasūtra says, and Udayana also says, Nyāyasāstra se charchayam ishasya manana vyapadesha bhak. So it is the manana of Ishvara through Nyaya Charcha, through the discussions on even on the theories of Vada, as Shuklaji also said yesterday. So these 16 categories would, the practice and Tattvajnana of these 16 would lead to Nishreyas Siddhi. And what are the 16 categories? Praman and Prameya. This Pramanas, means of knowledge, and Prameya, the object of knowledge. And Shansha is doubt, Prayojan is purpose, Drishtanta is illustration. We have discussed Drishtantas, and the whole system of Drishtanta is there. Dashtantik Sampradaya is there later on. And Siddhanta is theory, Tarka is argument. Avyav is, we will discuss it, Panchavyav Vakya, parts of a sentence presenting a thesis. And Nirnaya is conclusion, Vada is discussion, Jalpa is debate or wrangling, Vitanda is cavil, Hetvabhasa is fallacy. These are rough translations for our purpose, because there are professors of English also. Professor Siddharth Singh is a teaches English in Lucknow, and there are participants. They are very eminent participants, you see, experts in diverse fields, professors from universities like Kamal Kumar Choksi ji. He is professor in Gujarat University, Ahmedabad, and some other well-known scholars are here amongst the participants. But maybe some of them are not the experts in Indian philosophy. They come from the other fields. So I'm telling simple things from their point of view. And Chala is trick or quibbling. Jati is rejoinder. Nigrahasthana is clinchers. We will come to Nigrahasthana and Jati also as far as the time allows. And so these 14 are directly linked to theory of Vāda and Samvada. You can't do any Vāda and Samvada without these 14. In some way or other, you have to imply them. So they are directly connected to Vāda and Samvada, and Pramana and Prameya also, they are linked to Vāda and Samvada. You are doing Vāda and Samvada for what? You are doing it for some Prameya, and you are implying some Pramanas in it. So the whole Vāda and Samvada is with these 16 categories described in Nyāyasūtra. Therefore, Nyāyasūtra is the first great text on Vāda and Samvada. We are, of course, trying to create an independent discipline like Vādaśāstra. This is what I am proposing through this workshop. That because Varkhedi ji is here, so he published one of my small books, monograph, Vādaśāstram. So there I have argued that Vādaśāstram is not accepted as a separate Shastra in our tradition. In Vyakarana, in the theories of language, some discussions on Anuvada, not exactly the term Anuvada is there, but several other terms are there. So the theory of Anuvada is discussed, but now it has become a very important independent discipline, the translation studies. In other world universities, it is a discipline taught. It has become very significant. So in the same way, just as psychology was a part of philosophy earlier, aesthetics was also a part of philosophy earlier, but they later on developed as independent disciplines. So Vādaśāstra and Samvādaśāstra may be incorporated under the Nyaya system, Nyaya philosophy. But now it is time to consider them as very independent and important disciplines. The times are such. So you can consider Vādaśāstra and then Samvādaśāstra also as very important disciplines in Indian knowledge systems. They should be actually taught in the universities because the times are such that we should learn about the Vāda and Samvada. So the 4 pramanas are there in the Nyāyasūtra: Pratyaksh, perception; Anumana, inference; Upmana, analogue; Shabda, you can say scripture, Shabda pramana. And so I will hurriedly read out to create a background for Varkhedi ji and Professor Shukla ji to speak. So the knowledge arising out of sense contact with an object which is determinate, unamenable, and non-erratic is pratyaksha. Indriyat sannikarshotpannam jnanam avyapadeshyam avyavichari vyavasayatmakam pratyaksham. Inference is knowledge preceded by perception. Anumana pratyakshanantaram eva anumana pramanasya vyavastha bhavati. Because inference is based on perception. Unless pratyaksha is there, anumana will not be there. So, and it is of 3 kinds: Purvat, Sheshvat, and Samanyato Drasht. Purvat is a priori, Sheshvat is a posteriori, and Samanyato Drasht is commonly seen. I will omit the details. A discourse from an authentic source is Shabda. So Pratyaksha, Anuman, Shabda, and Upman is analog, Sadrashya. Upma Alankar is based on Upmana Pramana. You see, many of the categories in Kavyasāstra come from the Nyāyasūtra, and there is a dialogue between Natyasāstra, Nyāyasūtra, and Kamsūtra, and other sutra texts, because Natyasāstra is being written almost in the same period when the Sutrakaras of 6 philosophical systems are preparing their texts. So there are correspondences of which there is no time to talk about here. But elsewhere I delivered a lecture on categories in Kavyasāstra which are derived from Nyāyasūtra. So many categories in Kavya doshas, in Kavya gunas, they come from the concepts of Chalajati, Nigra Sthana and other things. So therefore, I feel myself very much poor in the respect that I didn't study Nyāyasūtra properly, because to understand Kavyasāstra properly, you should be a scholar of Nyāyasūtra also and Mīmaṅsā-Shāstra also. So, and Vyakarana-Shāstra, of course. So, anyway, we will omit many details. Some मैं फालतू की बातें इधर उधर की भी बीच बीच में करने लगता हूँ. Anyway, so now Anumana is crucial for sustaining any conversation or debate. अपने दैनिक जीवन में भी हम अनुमान, बिना अनुमान के तो जीवन ही नहीं चलेगा. मैं यहाँ बैठा हूँ, रसोई घर से मुझे कुछ सुगंध आ रही है, तो मैं अनुमान करता हूँ कि अब जब ये लेक्चर समाप्त हो जाए, जल्दी हो जाए, तो मैं फिर कुछ ग्रहण करूँगा. So always I am making anumana of something or other throughout my life. In philosophy also you have to depend on anumana, and it has three cases in relation to hetu. There is a hetu for anumana. You should have a hetu. उसका कारण तो होना ही चाहिए, अनुमान किस आधार पर कर रहे हैं. वो हेतु जो है उसमें तीन पक्ष उसके होते हैं, पक्ष, सपक्ष और विपक्ष. The paksha is thesis case, sapaksha is observed case. And you create a thesis when paksha is there, and sapaksha is the observed case. You have observed the presence of the hetu in that case, and it is a case in which hetu is essentially present, and vipaksha is another observed case in which hetu is essentially absent. So inference is implied in two ways: for understanding oneself, that is swarthanumana, and for making the other to understand. Either in Vada you are trying to convince your opponent, Prativadin, then you are making a Pararthanumana, or you are trying to convince your respondent in a judicial court, then also you are making Pararthanumana, or your Shishya disciple, you are trying to convince him of a theory, then also you are making Pararthanumana. So this Pararthanumana is very important in carrying out the Vadas and Samvadas, and it has Panchavaya Vakya. According to Nyaya, the Buddhist logicians did not agree with the structure of Panchavaya Vakya. Dharmakirti says that Pratigya and Nigman, two are sufficient. You can do away with the rest. They had their own notions, and they were great logicians. They were, you see, arguing constantly for 1000 years with the Gautama Nyaya systems, and the Gautam Naiyayikas had to revise themselves again and again when challenged by them. So this Panchavaya Vakya, 5-member syllogism is required for Parathanumana. The 5 avayavas, 5 components of Panchavaya Vakya are Pratigya, that is thesis; Hetu, that is reason; Drishtanta or Udharan, that is illustration; Upnaya, that is application; and Nigamana, that is conclusion. So the statement of Sadhya, I don't know whether it is a proper translation to call it probandum, but many authors, because I have gone through the English works and English translations also, I consulted a good English translation. It was by some philosopher, I am forgetting the name. It is a Bengali scholar of Nyāyasūtra. So they have used these terms, because my English is also not that way very perfect. So I don't know how far it is proper to call sadhya as probandum, but they say it is probandum. And the cause or probans for proving the probandum is simply by similarity or dissimilarity. Dissimilarity is hetu. So pratigya hetu, then udharana is drishtanta, illustration, having similarity with the probandum, and application of the illustration is upnaya, reaffirming the statement of probandum on the basis of justification from hetu and upnaya is nigamana. I have given the sentences from Nyāyasūtra. I will omit them. And so these are very well known. This is very well known examples. Example of Panchavaya Vakya. You see the smoke emanating from the top of the mountain. पहाड़ से धुआं उठ रहा है, तो हम अनुमान करते हैं कि पहाड़ पर आग जल रही होगी, क्योंकि जहाँ आग होती है वहाँ धुआं होता है, बिना आग के तो धुआं नहीं हो सकता। आजकल नाटक खेलते हैं उसमें वो धुआं मशीन से पैदा करते हैं। दैट so those were the times when they could have this vyapti, this concomitance, that wherever fire is there, smoke will be there. Sorry, wherever there is smoke, there would be fire. So now we construct the Panchavaya Vakya when we see smoke arising from the top of the mountain. So there is fire on the mountain. पहाड़ पर अग्नि है, ये प्रतिज्ञा हो जाएगी. So somebody is telling, suppose I am going for a picnic and I see fire, I see smoke on the top of the mountain. So I will construct this Panchavaya Vakya to convince my wife that there is fire on the mountain. So कृपा करके आप पहाड़ पर मत चढ़िए, आग वाग लगी हुई है वहाँ. So this is the importance of Panchavaya Vakya, that you can caution. In philosophy also you can caution the others of the perils. So there is fire on the mountain. This will be the pratigya or thesis or hypothesis, because there is smoke arising from its top. This is the hetu, कारण. And कारण और कार्य भी कह सकते हैं, साधन और साध्य भी कह सकते हैं हेतु और प्रतिज्ञा के लिए. अगर मैं गड़बड़ नहीं कर रहा हूं तो wherever there is smoke there is fire, just as we see it in the kitchen. This is the दृष्टांता. यत यत तुमवत तत्तद वन्निमत यथा महानसः. So Mahanasa or kitchen becomes a sapaksha, observed case, where through perception you have seen the invariable concomitance between the two, that wherever there is smoke there has to be fire. But you cannot say that wherever there is fire smoke will be there, क्योंकि आप गैस का चूल्हा जलाते हैं उसमें आग है लेकिन स्मोक नहीं होगा. तो ये दो तरह से व्याप्ति नहीं बनेगी. There are some vyaptis which can be constructed both the ways, and there are some vyaptis which cannot be constructed, which can be constructed only one way. So wherever smoke is there, fire has to be there. As we see in the Mahanasa, that when smoke is arising, we say that chula is burning. My mother, who used to prepare food on the chula, so I could know that she is now preparing the food, because the smoke is coming out of rasoi or Mahanasa. And so is this mountain. In the same way, this smoke is arising out of this mountain. Therefore, Nigman will be, therefore, there is fire burning on this mountain. So now how to apply this 5-member syllogism to any theory or any nishpatti, any hypothesis which you want to prove. Suppose as per the Gandhian philosophy, I want to say that ahimsa is the param dharma. So the pratigya would be ahimsa is param dharma. Ahimsa param dharma hai, ये प्रतिज्ञा हुई क्योंकि अहिंसा समाज को धारण करती है. This will be the hetu, because it is ahimsa which sustains this world. The world would be lost if ahimsa is not there. And Upanay will be that whatsoever sustains this universe is our param dharma. जो समाज को धारण करता है वह परम धर्म है. ये उपनय होगा. दृष्टांत होगा जैसे कि सत्य. सत्य इज आल्सो ए कैटेगरी विच सस्टेन्स दिस यूनिवर्स. अहिंसा सत्य, यही दोनों धारण करते हैं. या अहिंसा सत्य अस्ते इत्यादि जो हमारे दर्शन में बताए गए हैं, तो शास्त्र से भी प्रमाणित है. साधर्म्य दृष्टांत हो सकता है, वेधर्म्य दृष्टांत भी हो सकता है कि असत्य, जहां जहां मिथ्याचार होगा वहां समाज का नाश होगा. तो जो समाज को धारण करता है वह परम धर्म है. अहिंसा समाज को धारण करती है, इसलिए अहिंसा परम धर्म है. या निगमन होगा, ये कंक्लूजन इस तरह से होगा. तो इस तरह से इन दिस वे यू कैन कंस्ट्रक्ट पंचावय वाक्य इन एनी वादा और संवादा. एंड Gautama further says that these Panchavaya Vakya is necessary to complete an Anumana, and Anumana is necessary to pursue Vada and Samvada. These 3 categories I have discussed: Paksha Sattva, Sapaksh Sattva and Vipaksha Vyavrat Tattva. So the Hetu or Sadhan is present in the paksha. This is the first condition to make the anumana. Parvat is the paksha, thesis case. So we see the hetu, that is smoke on the mountain. So paksha sattva is there. So paksha sattva, the observed case, that is mahanas or kitchen. So in kitchen we have seen the presence of dhuma and vanni together, and we have confirmed repeatedly by our observation, by pratyaksha, that wherever dhuma is there, fire has to be there. So this is sapaksha sattva. Therefore perception precedes inference. अनुमान के पहले प्रत्यक्ष अवश्य ही आता है. And विपक्ष व्यावृतत्व, this also we have observed. So vipaksha, the antithesis case, the case where hetu is not there, it is sarovar or hrad. So पानी में आग नहीं लग सकती है. साहित्य में तो लग जाती है, लेकिन न्याय दर्शन में नहीं लगेगी. इसलिए सरोवर is the vipaksha. So there can be no fire in a pond, in a water body, and therefore a water body is the vipaksha. अब मैं छोड़ ही देता हूँ बड़ा, because I come from the discipline of drama, dramaturgy, and Nyāyasūtra, a very beautiful stanza from Mudra Rakshasa. You can know how this Panchavaya Vakya is applied in life. This Rakshasa and Chanakya, the great tussle, intrigue and fight between these two great politicians in Mudra Rakshasa. And Rakshasa is a great Nyāyika, and he describes his fight, you see, in the categories of Nyaya Darshana. So in life also you have to apply this Panchavaya Vakya. Sadhya nishchitam anvayena ghatitam vibrat sapak, it should be vibrat sapakshe sthitim vyavrattam cha vipakshato bhavati yat tat sadhanam siddhe. What is an ideal sadhan? It should be invariably with the sadhya. Dhoom is there whenever Agni is there, and sapaksha sattva bhi usme hona chahiye, और विपक्षा सत्व नहीं होना चाहिए, विपक्षा सत्व होना चाहिए. So all these three categories enumerated by Mudra Rakshasa, etc., etc. So you can have your real fight if you decide that these categories are confirmed in your life. Then you can pursue sadhya in the battle of life also, etc. So we will omit many details. You see, there is a Dashavaya Vakya according to Vatsyayana, Jigyasa, Sanshay, Shakya, Prapti, Prayojan, and Sanshay, Vidas. These 5 additional categories added to it. Then Vyapti is very important for argumentative traditions. You should know how to make a Vyapti that is translated as invariable concomitance, and it's a sentence specifying invariable relationship between two categories, two things, between the hetu and sadhya. So wherever the sadhya is there, its hetu is there. बिना कारण के कार्य नहीं हो सकता है. यदि कार्य है तो कारण होगा. धूम कार्य है, वन्नी फायर, अग्नि कारण है. So this is the causal theory, well known causal theories. In the same way, wherever hetu is there, its sadhya will be there. So specifying this relationship between the two is vyapti, and a statement specifying the, this I have spoken. Wherever there is a smoke, fire is there, this is vyapti. There are two vyaptis, anvaya and vyatireka. So anvaya is a positive, affirmative, and vyatireka is negative statement. So wherever fire is there, wherever smoke is there, fire will be there. This is anvaya vyapti, affirmative concomitance. And wherever fire is not there, smoke will not be there. This is vyatireka vyapti. Anyway, coming to the other categories, Sanshay is very important. Yesterday also we discussed the importance of Sanshay, and Rajaram Shuklaji very beautifully pointed out how Sanshay works as the basis for all sorts of discussions. If Sanshay is not there, discussion will not happen. And in Western philosophy also it is an important category, and we have been having different sessions in our Shastra Sabhas. Earlier, when I was there in Samsthana, we used to have some Shastra Sabhas. So there was a session on Sanshay, there was a session on Hetvabhas, etc. So, it is irresolute judgment about the precise character of an object arising from recognition of common properties in many objects or properties uncommon to any, from conflicting testimony or irregularity of perception or non-perception. This is the sutra, Saman Dharmo Pratyar Vipati Pratyar Anu Vipati Pratyar Uplabdhyanuplabdhya Avyavastatascha Vishesha Apeksho, etc. Then after Sanshaya, the next category is Prayojana, the aim for which the discourse is initiated. Next category to it is illustration or Drishtanta. It is a statement comprising an example for which both an ordinary person and an expert would have the similarity in understanding. The Drishtanta should be communicable. It should be understood. There in the Panchavya Vakya on that fire and smoke relationship, we say Mahanasa, because everybody is familiar with the Rasoi Ghar or Mahanasa. So the Drishtanta should be very well known, and it is an observed case. It describes the observed case. So Yamartham Adhikritya Pravartate Tat Prayojanam. I will omit the text also. The concept of Siddhanta is very important, and Charaka deals extensively with the theory of Siddhanta. He describes other categories of Siddhanta in his Carakasamhitā. So Siddhanta is a position resting on authority of a certain treatise, a section of a treatise, or implication. It is of four types: Sarva Siddhanta, which is followed by all systems; Prati Siddhanta, the theory in the system followed by the proponent and not followed by the opponent; and Adhikarana Siddhanta, theory in the system followed in a treatise required for the validation of other sections; and Abhibhagama Siddhanta, theory to be validated. So these categories, four types of Siddhanta. I will omit the Sanskrit sutras from Gautama's Nyāyasūtra. Then Tarka is another category out of the gamut of 16 categories, that is argument or reasoning. It is the confutation carried out on ascertaining the real character of an unknown category by showing the absurdity of all other characters. Incorrect application of Tarka leads to Tarka Bhasa, fallacious reasoning. And Udayana has dealt with the concept of Tarka Bhasa. 5 types of Tarka Bhasas or blemishes of Tarka he has described. Yesterday also we have dealt with some of the impediments in Vada as a general introduction. So some of them in all philosophical systems, in other philosophies also, in Western philosophies also, these anavastha, infinite regress, or anishtapatti, anishta prasanga, reduction ad absurdum, they occur there also, or fallacy or fallacious reasoning. So these are universal categories which can be applied to any discourse anywhere in any philosophical system. And what I was pointing out yesterday, that the proper application of Tarka would lead to great samvadas and vadas, and it will create the whole structure of Pramana Prameya and other categories also. Therefore, Tarka is also very much important. Therefore, Yaska in his Nirukta says that the age of Tarka is now coming. The seers were going and they were asked, who will be our seer now? So they replied that Tarka will be your seer now. So therefore, I call the second phase of our history of Vada as the Tarka Kala, and it was a great age of argumentation or reasoning. After the period of mantras, after the period of seers. So Tarka has that significance or importance. And you see this word Uh also occurs. Yaska also has used this Abhyuh and Uh there. And he has given, Yaska is a great person of dialogue. So he says, Uchchavachena Aviprayana Rishina Mantra Drashtayo Bhavanti. The seers in their mantras also have Uchchavach Abhiprayas. So you can know their Abhipraya through Abhyuh and Uh also. So the application of tarka, which is formed by abhyuh and uha, you have to understand it. And this is the whole tradition continuing before Nyāyasūtra, right from the Vedic period, because the seers also, they are also having some kind of argumentative design in their discourses. So Nirnaya is the next category. Vimarsha paksha pratipakshabhyam arthavadharanam nirnaya. Arriving at a decision after hearing both the sides, paksha and pratipaksha, is nirnaya. Then this Shuklaji has discussed this concept of katha, and katha, you see, is a pervasive concept in Nyaya Darshana. Katha doesn't mean story or narrative here. And in Buddhist system also, this word katha, and there are so many kaha texts in Pali literature, and they deal with the system of katha or kaha. There are slight differences, of course, but this katha or conversation is a generic term for all kinds of debates, dialogues, and discussions or discourses. And Vāda, Jalp, and Vitanda. Vāda is discussion. Yesterday also we have discussed that in Gautama's system, Vāda means all sorts of intellectual discussions involving dialogues, conversation, and asamati also may be there in the form of questions. So that becomes Vāda. And Jalpa is debate proper in Gautama's system. Jalpa is actually debate. But when Buddhist philosophers appeared on the scene, they led to a sort of delimitation of this meaning of Vāda, and they used this term Vāda in the sense of debate. So now also in our languages, this word Vāda is normally used in the sense of debate. Whenever there are debates, we say Vād Vivad Pratiyogita, etc. So the connotations have changed. There is Arthantar and Arthadesh, of course. Arth Sankoch maybe. These are the categories under theories of linguistics. So that happened with the term Vāda, but in Nyaya system, Vāda is a pervasive concept, and all sorts of discussions it involves. And Jalpa is the debate in defense or attack with the aim of winning over the opponent. Chala is quibble, Jati is objection, Nigrasthanas are clinchers. They are essentially implied to pursue the katha. So mere attack on the opposite side is Vitanda. In Vitanda, you are deconstructing a system. It is an important strategy or method to understand a system and to reach the conclusion or the Tattvabodh also. Vitanda is very significant. But there can be two types of Vitandas, and the proponent is making Vitanda in refutation of other systems without ascertaining his own position. And Jalpa is thus a tricky debate, whereas Vitanda is destructive debate involving scholastic exercise with arguments from the other side only, from the proponent side only, not from the opponent side. I will omit these Sanskrit sutras, and I will omit these details about Vitanda also, because Shuklaji has already discussed Vitanda yesterday. The higher category of Vitanda serves the Siddhanta Paksha through refutation of all the rival systems, as perhaps Khandan Khadyakara proposes to do. And the second category, lower category of Vitanda, is comprised of the misuse of Vitanda just for scholastic exercise. So mostly the great philosophers who are writing Vitanda texts, you see, Nagarjuna is great Vedantic. You see, Vedantic, the word Vedantic I do not use in a derogatory sense, you see. They are very, very great philosophers. And the whole text of Nagarjuna is a great Vitanda text. But he reaches the Shunyavada in his in Vigraha Vyavartani or other text. He refutes everything. You cannot say that this person is moving. He is not moving ahead. How can you say that he is moving ahead? The earth is rotating. He may be going backwards with the motion of the earth. So whatever statement you make, Nagarjuna would refute it. Any statement is wrong. So by proposing that, they prove that Shunya is the only truth. When you reach a state beyond the words fail to reach reality. It is their paksha, which the dialogue between Suvarchala and Shvetketu also proposes to discuss. So the great Vetandika, you see, Jayarashi, who wrote this Tattopaplav Singha, they are great Vetandikas, Sriharsha and Khandakadya. So they are not simply, demolishing the text for the purpose of demolishing it. So the demolition is for a very positive purpose. So I am not aware of any negative Vitanda text. Maybe there are some. So because Khandakadya himself says that it's a positive kind of Vitanda he is proposing to make here. Then Jati, maybe Shuklaji and Varkhediji would explain it better way, because I find many definitions of Jati by different Shastrakaras. There is one definition, Asaduttaram Jatihi, and sophisticated refutation and futile rejoinder. This is also the understanding of Professor E. Solomon is a good philosopher. You see, the history of dialectics in India. This is 2 volumes of her work. So Vada is a pervasive concept. It is defined by Gautama as the conversation between the master and the disciple or disciples, or between peers involving discussions of friendly nature. Both the sides of a theory are discussed in Vada, employing 5-member syllogism. In his presentation of Nyāyasūtra, Haribhadra is an important philosopher whom I propose to discuss tomorrow. And in his Shat Darshan Sangra, he is a Jain Nyāyika, defines Vada in the following way: the means for practice of discourse between the master and the disciple with taking up positions and counter positions is Vada. And Pramana Tarka Sadhanopalamba Siddhanta Viruddha Panchavayavopapanna Paksha Pratipaksha Parigraho Vada. This is Nyāyasūtra. And Shat Darshan Sangrahakara says, Acharya Shishyayo Paksha Pratipaksha Parigrahat Yah Kathabhyasa Hetu Syad Asau Vada Udharata. He agrees almost with Nyāyasūtrakara. Then we can omit this. Then the gamut of Vad, Jalp and Vitanda is named Katha, the author of Tarkik Raksha. It is an important text. It is a good manual on Vad and Samvada also, and defines the edition of Tarkik Raksha, as far as I have seen, is published from Tirupati, Central Sanskrit University or Sanskrit Vidyapith. It defines Katha in the following manner: expansion of sentences by various speakers deliberating upon a particular topic is Katha. It has 6, and according to some 4 divisions. In Milinda Panho, King Milinda asked the monk Nagsena, let there be Katha Sallap, discussion and dialogue between us. They have used different terminology in Buddhist tradition, but the concepts are there. And Vicharya Vishayo Nana Vaktiko Vakya Vistarah Katha. Tasya Shrangani Prahush Chatvari Kechana. So the Katha in Gautama system has 3 components: Vad, Jalp and Vitanda. In later theorists, 6 components and 4 components. We will not go into more details of it. Shankar Mishra is also a great Nyāyika, and Vadi Vinod, which is a manual on Vada, and it is a good text on Vada and Samvada theory and practice. So in this, Shankar Mishra takes up the following alternate thesis with regard to Katha and refutes them one by one. So Sanatana's theory of a different kind of Vitanda consisting of Tattva Bhutsa Vada. I think Shuklaji also used this word, that Vitanda is carried for the purpose of Tattva Bhutsa, with the desire to know the Tattva. The proposition of the author of Ratnakara holding a 4th category Katha in the form of the exploration of the theory of the proponent only, and theory of Katha as unified single form of debate without any categorization. This is also view, but this is also the view, but Shankar Mishra, you see, doesn't accept them. And we will omit the details about other categories. And Shuklaji talked about Vipratipatti, disagreement. It is also an important concept. So this later Nyāyika discuss this concept of Vipratipatti, and Vadi Vinod Shankar Mishra discusses it. And there are regulations about Katha in these texts, how to conduct the Katha. So Nirupya Nirupak Niyam and Katha Vishesha Vyavastha and Vadi Prativadi Niyam and Sadasi Anuvidheya Samvarana. So these codes of conduct are there, and Nigrasthan Samastya and Asamast Tayod Bhav Na Pratigya. So all these categories and Katha Paryavasana Samvitti. So these are the regulatory categories for Katha, that there are regulations to use the Sadhya and Sadhan, signifiers and signs, the arrangements for special types of debates, the rules for the opponent or Vadin and respondent, how they will conduct their ethics and code of conduct. You should decide first before you carry out the Vad or Samvad. Code of conduct for juries, the Prashnikas. There are detailed descriptions of Prashnikas in this text. And in Nyāyasūtra, there is the whole chapter on the Prashnikas. When the performances of plays are there, what sort of Prashnikas were be there to decide the best of the play. And there is if there are controversies, who will decide, etc., etc. So in all these institutions, the arrangement for Prashnikas or juries is there. So there are codes of conduct for the Prashnikas, and all these arrangements are there, arrangements for deciding the clinchers or Nigrasthanas, etc. So we will omit the other details. And this Chala is Kibal Jati, objection, and Nigrasthana, clinchers, are essentially implied in Katha. And in Jalpa, as Gautama says, Yathoktopapannash Chala Jati Nigrasthana Sadhanopa Lambho Jalpa. So a Jalpa would comprise Chala Jati and Nigrasthanas. Therefore, you should know to conduct proper debate what is Chal and what is Jati and what is Nigrasthana. And an attack or denial of a proposition on the thesis of similarity or dissimilarity is Jati. It is so named because it is generated or born instantly. Jayate iti Jati. And Vatsyayana says that Jati involves objections on the hetu or cause. When the hetu is intended to prove a proposition through similarity of the example cited, Jati proceeds to counter it by producing an example based on dissimilarity and vice versa. So it is used in refutation to the Vadi by the Prativadi, or in refutation to each other. They say that it is not proper for you to say this. I will give a counter example. So this happens through Jati. 24 Jatis are enumerated. This Sadrishya Sama, Vaidharmya Sama, Utkarsh Sama, Apakarsh Sama, Varnya Sama, Avarnya Sama, Vikalpa Sama, Sadhya Sama, Prapti Sama, Aprapti Sama, etc., etc. Homogeneity, heterogeneity, addition, deficiency, uncertainty, certainty, alternative, provendum, co-presence, mutual absence, etc., etc. These are, and 24 are there. I will not give details of the others. Nigrasthana is very important, as we discussed yesterday also. Pakad, isko nigrah ka matlab hi pakad hota hai. So you catch your opponent, Prativadin, that this is the mistake you have committed. Uske स्खलन को पकड़ लेता है, वो उसमें निग्रह स्थान बताता है. So it is crucial in a theory and in the theory and practice of debates and dialogues. It occurs when one of the debaters gets himself trapped due to his own deficiency. And खंडन खंड खाद्य में प्रतिद्वंदी निग्रह शब्द का प्रयोग श्रीहर्ष करते हैं for the situation when the Vadin, overlooking the defect in his own thesis, he starts displaying the same defect in the discourse of his opponent. धर्मकीर्ति ने भी इस पर काफी चर्चा की है. निग्रहस्थान वो 22 नहीं मानते हैं, बहुत कम मानते हैं, लेकिन बहुत विस्तार से उन्होंने वादन न्याय में चर्चा की है. So this nigrasthana is an important concept, how to grab your opponent red handed, how to catch him. जैसे पुलिस दबिश डालती है तो आजकल जैसे होता है. So you have to be prepared to catch your opponent whenever he commits any mistake. So this is, you will say that this is a nigrasthana. आपने गलती कर दी. Even when he doesn't point out a mistake you have committed, then also you can say that you didn't point out my mistakes. So this is a nigrasthana. You are caught. One of the points will be lost by you. आपका एक पॉइंट कम हो जाएगा. जब प्राश्निक उसको जज कर रहे हैं निग्रहस्थान के द्वारा, वो पॉइंट्स उसके कैलकुलेट करेंगे. ये सब भी व्यवस्थाएं हैं. तो कितने निग्रह स्थान इसने बता दिए, इसके आधार पर व्यवस्था होगी. सो देयर आर 22 निग्रह स्थानास enumerated. So very hair splitting divisions you see are there. Nigrah sthanas based on defect in the statement of provenance. So pratigya hani, pratigyantar, loss of thesis, change of thesis, and pratigya virodh, contradicting one's own thesis. एक बार उसने कहा कि जहां जहां अहिंसा है वहीं विजय होती है, फिर बीच में कह दिया कि नहीं, अहिंसा से तो सब जगह विजय नहीं हो सकती है. देन यू हैव लॉस्ट योर ओन थीसिस. प्रतिज्ञा हानि होगी. यू हैव गिवन ए थीसिस दैट अहिंसा परमो धर्म इति भवतां प्रतिज्ञा. यदा विवादः भवति तदा हिंसापि अनिवार्या भवति. पाकिस्तानेन युद्धं तु कार्यम् इति प्रतिवादी कथयति. तदा भवान् कथयति क्वचित् क्वचित् हिंसापि अनिवार्या भवति. देन Prativadi would say that you have lost your thesis. The pratigya hani would be there. So all these nigrasthanas proceed this way. Abandonment of thesis. He relinquishes his own thesis. Okay, I say that it was not true. I take my words back. Then also he is defeated by this nigrasthana. Then hetvantar, shifting the reason. दूसरा हेतु आप देने लगते हैं. आपने यत्र धूमस्तत्र वन्नी में परतो वन्यमान धूपवत्वात् यह हेतु दिया था. अब आप कुछ और हेतु देने लगते हैं. Then also the shifting of reason hetvantar would occur. So in this way these, sorry, again we are running very short of time. So these nigrasthanas I will not go into the details. And 22 we have the definitions of them, and other details of from other text I would omit. Vadi, Prativadi Niyam, and codes of conduct for juries, Sadasi Anuvidheya, Samvarana. These are defined by the text like Tarkik Raksha, etc. Rajeshwar Shastri has been referred to yesterday by me also and by Professor Shuklaji also. And he has written a good text, Shastrarth Vichar Paddhati. I got a copy of it in Saketam, which was a journal from Ayodhya, I think. Very old copy, published from 120 years back perhaps. And I had published an edition of it in a series of unpublished manuscripts which I used to run from Sagar, Prakhya series. So in some volume of that Prakhya, in second volume, this Shastrarth Vichar Paddhati is published, and Shuklaji might be using some other edition because he was referring to it, citing to it. So Rajeshwar Shastri says that when Katha is being conducted in the form of a debate, both the participants should be of equal stature. It is obvious. And otherwise the dissemination of the purpose will be lost due to the inequality of the debaters, and the juries may take a decision without the debate, etc. And this we have dealt with. Vada is something sacred. It will lead to emancipation of your self, your mukti, nishreyas, and organizing an assembly for Vada was supposed to yield merit equal to performance of a yajna. Such sentences are also occur in the Shastras. It is everywhere. You have to glorify your Shastra. Not in Natyasāstra also Bharat Muni says that whosoever performs Natya is equal to yajna, and Ashwamedha phalam vajpe sahasra phalam labate, yak Natya nam ayojanam karyati karoti va, etc. Bharat Muni says. So it is true also, because Natya is actually yajna, and Vada is also a yajna. So if you do it with that spirit, which is the real spirit of conducting Vada. So this was our view of Vada. And then this Tattva Jnana, understanding of Tattva, is said to be of three types: that which imparts the knowledge of the unknown, that which substantiates the knowledge of the known, and that which eradicates the doubts. This is also from Shastras Vichar Paddhati. It is an important contribution of perhaps Rajeshwar Shastri Dravin. And this I have already spoken about. And the concept of Anvikshiki we have discussed yesterday. Rajshekhara discusses this concept in Kavya Mimamsa, and he says that there are 6 darshanas under Anvikshiki, and there are 2 pakshas, Purva Paksha and Uttar Paksha. So Buddhism, Jainism and Charvaka form the Purva Paksha, and Sankhya, Nyaya and Vaisheshika form the Uttar Paksha. Then we come to Charaka, and within 5 minutes I will finish Charaka, because we cannot do, I can give only a very brief glimpse of what Charaka is saying, as I understand. So after describing the pedagogy and the methods of teaching Ayurveda in 4th chapter, 2 editions I saw. Charaka is a very voluminous text, you see, and it has not been properly critically edited also. Perhaps Privat Sharma, who edited it, his edition may be good. And so in some edition it is 4th chapter, in another it is 8th chapter, and it is Vimanasthana in his text, where it is 4th chapter. And Charaka discusses the theory of debate in detail. So debate between the physicians encourages the pursuit of knowledge, and its advancement provides expertise, improves the art of oratory, eliminates fame. All these sentences are there that if you do proper, he says 2 types of sambhashas are there: Sandhaya Sambhasha and Vigrahya Sambhasha. This Madhav Deshpande ji was also referring to Charaka. And Sandhaya Sambhasha is friendly debate, and Vigrahya Sambhasha is hostile debate. And both these types of debates happen in medical conferences. Charaka is talking of medical conferences. The discussions, dialogues in the symposia of the Vaidyas, the medical practitioners, how they should be conducted. And he builds his theory for them, you see. And his contribution is enormous, because he is a great philosopher and thinker also. He चरक संहिता में तो सृष्टि का उद्भव कैसे हुआ इसके साथ विचार आरंभ होता है, जो कि न्याय सूत्र में भी नहीं है. जैसे महाभारत का आरंभ होता है कि सृष्टि का आरंभ कैसे हुआ, एक विशाल काय अंडा पहले था इत्यादि. So very scientifically he says how this creation comes, and then he proceeds to enumerate another category, the human body, how the human body is formed. And psychology also, what are the components of a human intelligence, manobuddhi, etc. It's a great text in psychology. And then he comes to this medical conferences and debates and dialogue. So this I have said, 2 types of debates, Vada, Sandhaya. He doesn't use the word Vada here. He says it is Sambhasha. So Sandhaya Sambhasha and Vigrahya Sambhasha. These 2 types of Sambhashas, you can say in Gautama, according to Gautama, Vada are there. Then there are differences from Gautama's system. Instead of grouping Jalpa and Vitanda as types of Katha, as Gautama does, Charaka defines these 2 as types of Vada. His concept of Vada a little differs from Gautama. So to him, Jalpa and Vitanda are the varieties of Vada. And Vada, the word Vada is not used by him in the sense of all types of discussions between Guru and Shishya and friends, etc. So he uses the word Sambhasha for that. And the whole discourse in Carakasamhitā is delivered through 4 sections: Tantra, Sthana, Adhyay, Prashna, and by the productries of the Shastra. He speaks of a great tradition of theory of Vada which continues in this Ayurveda. He said that we had our productries. There have been so many spokesmen or proponents of this theory in our system of Ayurveda, he says. And Charaka actually is not the author of Carakasamhitā. It is some seer actually authored it, some Agni Veshmuni or somebody like it. I am forgetting the names. So it's a very old and ancient tradition, and the Vada tradition also in Ayurveda goes on along with that. Then he says that the themes are to be explained in brief and in detail through 5 stages of Pratigya Hetu, Udaharan, Upnay, and Nigmana. He talks about this Panchavaya Vakya. Slightly different terminology is there. He doesn't say Drishtanta, he says Udaharana, but these categories are accepted and questions are raised. Tatra Ayurveda Vidas Tantrasthanadhyaya Prashnanam Pratakvena Vakyasho Vakyarthasho Arthavayoshascha Pravaktaro Mantavya. Amongst the experts of Ayurveda, there are different pravaktris, there are different spokespersons as per the Vakyarthas, Arthavayavas, Vakyanshas, etc. And how that happens, he discusses it. And according to the buddhi of Shishya, this Tantra is explained through these categories, he says. So, Tantra Netanam Artha Durganam Punar Vibhavane Ruktam Arthavayosho Bhavati Iti Uktam. So, Artha Durgas are there, very difficult sections are there, and through these steps you can make them eligible. Then he gives a model of questions and answers which can be raised and discussed in a medical conversation, just like the Brahmodhya. So the questions and answers are defined in the Brahmana text, in Shatpat Brahmana and other texts, that such and such questions will be raised. Who is bigger than earth? What is bigger than earth? Who is more bright than sun, etc. So such questions for medical theories also are defined by Charaka. So these questions will be the, जैसे प्रश्न question bank बनाते हैं. So in this way he has given a set of questions and answers, and the dialogues, discussions, etc. can be conducted on the basis of these questions and answers, he says. And he has used the term Sambhasha instead of Katha. And themes for discussions or questions between the two Vedyas have also been defined by Charaka. They comprise of a group of 8 categories. This is very important because he is building up a system on the basis of the practices in Ayurveda, how the Ayurveda Vedyas used to have discussions. So the Tantra, treatise or text, Tantrartha, content of the text, Sthana, sections of the text. So all the discussions will be carried on the basis of these. That do you know the Tantra, then do you know the Tantrartha, then do you know the Sthana, then Sthanartha, then the Adhyayas, and the Adhyayartha, and the Prashna, or the topics in that Adhyayartha and Prashnartha, etc. So such discussions can happen. It is for the practice between the teacher and the disciple also, how the Ayurveda is taught. That also, Carakasamhitā is a manual for them, for the teaching of Ayurveda through the methodology of Sambhasha, through Vada techniques, you can say. So he has reformulated the epistemology for Ayurveda. He has also developed a theory of Vada as applicable to his discipline, and he calls it Vishagvada, debate between the physicians. He also gives a clear directive to his fellow physicians. All the discussions or dialogues that they carry with their colleagues should pertain to Ayurveda only and not to other disciplines. Because you are practicing Ayurveda, so be limited to your discipline. And all the discussions, debates, dialogues, you restrict to your discipline. This is the very good language of Carakasamhitā as a text in the history of Sanskrit prose. Also, it is very important. So Pratyaksha perception is not cited as the first valid mean. This is also important about Charak, because his system has to differ with the Gautama's system. So his Ātaupadesha comes first, and Pratyaksha would follow it, because Ātaupadesha is more important for the medical practitioners. They might not be having Pratyaksha, but the gurus have taught them, and this is confirmed by the gurus that this aushadha will be useful for this this disease. So this aptopadesha should be the first pramana here, not the pratyaksha pramana. In Buddhist theory, pratyaksha and anumana, only two pramanas are there. In Shabda pramana, they won't accept. In Vedanta, Shruti pramana is, it gets upper hand, of course. But in other systems, pratyaksha, particularly in Nyaya, pratyaksha is the first pramana. It's the foremost pramana. All other pramanas would follow it. But in Charaka, Charaka perhaps is the only system where aptopadesha is the first and foremost pramana. Okay, and he has reasons for it. So he says, Trividam khalu roga vishesha vijnanam bhavati aptopadesha pratyaksham anumanam cheti. So these three are the parts of the epistemology in Ayurveda, and there are very interesting discussions how to recognize the fake Vedyas who are boasting of their knowledge. So all these sets of questions, all these strategies for Tarka and Vitanda, they should be employed to expose them. This way he shows. For now also you can, if the doctors read Carakasamhitā, they can use this text to expose the fake, this Jhola Chap doctors by using the methodology of Charaka. So, so you can carry the hostile debate with a fake practitioner, he says. And I think I should now wind up. Otherwise, Charaka is very important so far as the development of the Vādaśāstra goes. A very subtle and minute analysis of, he discusses the Prashnikas also, two types of juries, and how the Prashnikas would function. Then his categories are different, you see. He accepts the 16 categories of Nyaya, but if he gives 40 categories, a very big gamut of categories. He says that you should know all these categories to conduct Vāda, Samvad, etc., and to have the Tattvavod of Ayurveda. So it is a very extensive treatment of categories in Carakasamhitā. Some categories he has taken from Vaisheshika philosophy, because he has to depend on Vaisheshika philosophy naturally. So Dravya Guna Karma Samanya Vishesh Samvaya Bhav, these 7 he has taken from Vaisheshika. Some other categories he has taken from some other systems. He has created his own categories also. His own concepts are there. So Ahetu he uses for Hetva Bhasa, and 3 types of Ahetus he describes. And okay. So the definitions are there. You see, Pratigya is there. Then he gives a counter category, Pratisthapana. So Pratisthapana nama ya tasyayo par pratigyaya vipritartha sthapana. If you are having a debate with your rival, so the thesis of the rival will be par pratigya. Then the vipritartha sthapana of par pratigya will be pratisthapana. So you are countering the antithesis. That will be pratisthapana. So several other such categories are there in the 40 categories of Yaska. Sorry, Charaka. So I will stop here. 10 minutes, I think I have taken more, or maybe I have taken much more time than was given in the schedule. I forgot the schedule also, because I should have kept it before me. But now I will request both the honorable experts to come forward, and then or shall we have a brief discussion? Okay, for 5 minutes we will have a discussion, and if anybody has any questions in the chat box, where is chat box? प्रवीण जी, आपको दिख रहा हो तो बताइए।
जी सर, मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ।
पढ़ दीजिए, जल्दी कर लेते हैं, समय ज्यादा हो गया।
For one question from Sahminaz Khan, is there any particular term for Vada which takes place under Vada?
which takes place
under Vāda.
No, I'm not aware. What does she mean by under Vāda? It is like underplaying. Whatever she should explain. Let Shaminaz come and explain in half a minute.
सर जैसे आपने बिगनिंग में बताया कि एक वो था ट्रेडिशन के वाद के अंदर वाद भी होते थे.
वाद अंडर वाद. ओके, यू से
हाँ जी, सर.
वाद के भीतर वाद.
यस सर.
ऐसा
हाँ
तो सभी में होता है. जितना
सर
जो
उसके लिए
वाद हो रहा है महाभारत में, जो सुलभाजनक संवाद है, वो वाद के भीतर फिर वाद उठता है. सारे उसमें wherever there are questions and counter questions, so you are questioning the position of your opponent, so you are raising another vada, so that will be vada within vada. So that happens. That is natural. And
Sir, may Rajaram Shukla. This is there is an appropriate word for this is avantarvada. Avantar prashna, avantarvada.
धन्यवाद.
हाँ, इसीलिए तो इतने बड़े न्यायिकों को हमने बुलाया है कि जो इतने अज्ञानी प्राणी हैं वो आप लोग बताएंगे. और प्रश्न भी बहुत अच्छे हो रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छे इसमें पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं. लेकिन 2 मिनट में हम खत्म कर लेते हैं. और कोई प्रश्न हो तो बताइए. और वो जो शंकाएं हैं वो तो समाधान आपको भी करना ही है.
लीना सक्करवाल महोदया प्रश्नं पृच्छतु.
Quickly raise the question briefly, because I hope you are also eager to listen to the experts.
Sir, can we consider?
Sir, I have written in chat box. Actually, my question is about that. You have said that in Mahabharata or Nyāyasūtra, Vāda. So I just want to ask that in Mahabharata or Nyāyasūtra, can we consider Vāda as a way of doing evaluations or assessments, or we can consider it as a steps of learning methodologies to learn various concepts?
Yes,
I just want to know.
Very much so. Even when you are evaluating an answer book, of an examinee, if you have learned the theories of Vāda, you can judge him on the basis of whether he is a good Vāda Purusha, the examinee, whether he has given good reasoning, whether he has put up his pratigya in a proper way. That you can judge. So you can evaluate it on the basis of Vāda. That I have been saying that Vāda is applicable. All the tenets of Vāda, they are applicable in all the fields of life. So you can apply them even when in your examination system, in all other systems. It's a universal system they are creating, so far as I can understand. Any other question?
Yes, sir. One more.
I have a question. The question is from where Bhishma picks up the thread of this Sulabha and Janak Samvad. Does it appear earlier in Ramayana or anywhere else?
No, Sulabha Janak Samvad, I am not aware whether it appears anywhere else. You see, Bhishma is the Param Jnani. He is the greatest of Jnanis in the Mahabharata. It's such a big, vast store of knowledge and stories lies in him. So the authors of Mahabharata, whatever traditions of knowledge, discussions, illustrations, drashtantas they had, they put all those through the mouth of Bhishma. So Bhishma symbolizes the whole tradition of Indian knowledge there in Mahabharata. कृष्ण जो है वो पांडवों से महाभारत युद्ध के बाद कहते हैं कि दुनिया का सबसे महान ज्ञानी वो सरसैया पर पड़ा हुआ है, उसके पास जाकर के कुछ सीख लो, नहीं तो वो चला जाएगा तो कोई नहीं मिलेगा इतना तुमको बताने वाला. Therefore the Pandavas go to Bhishma. Bhishma is lying on the on that shayya of arrows, on the bed of arrows, and he continues his discourses in Shanti Parva and Anushashan Parva throughout. They are great discourses. So all these stories, discussions, the duties of the king, wonderful expositions, you see. The whole Arthashastra, even sometimes even more significant than Kautilya's Arthashastra, that is given in the Mahabharata, in the Rajdharma Parva. So Bhishma has become a symbol of the whole Indian knowledge. But he doesn't say that I have learned this story from that Upanishad or that his sources are not there. So therefore I cannot say whether the Sulabha Janak story is described in any earlier text. That I cannot say. Maybe the experts might throw some light on it. Next question. Then we will, you see, wind up this discussion. Is there any other?
सर एक चीज और पूछनी थी मुझे कि जिस वाद शास्त्र की आप चर्चा कर रहे हैं, तो क्या इसको हम भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में अधिगम के सिद्धांतों के रूप में भी हम इसको समझ सकते हैं एज अ लर्निंग थ्योरी?
हाँ,
वाद
समझ
को
सकते हैं। हाँ, आप एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट में डालिए अपने, क्या करते हैं आप लोग, जो आप, हाँ आप उसमें है ना, शिक्षा शास्त्र में है, तो आप
जी
वहाँ
सर।
कहिए कि वाद शास्त्र आप इसमें जोड़िए। क्या फायदा आपको शिक्षा के सिद्धांत पढ़ाने का अगर आपने वाद शास्त्र और संवाद शास्त्र नहीं पढ़ाया है? ये तो सारी
जी बिल्कुल
थ्योरी चरक
जी।
ही कह ही रहा है कि कैसे वैद्य अपने शिष्यों को पढ़ाएंगे, इसके लिए मैं पूरा वाद शास्त्र और संवाद शास्त्र बता रहा हूँ, और पूरा गौतम भी वाद
बिल्कुल
शास्त्र संवाद शास्त्र जो बता रहे हैं। तो कोई भी डिसिप्लिन, शिक्षा शास्त्र है या कोई भी, उसमें आपके शिक्षा शास्त्र में अधिगम के सिद्धांत हैं, तो उसमें आप यू कैन इंक्लूड these theories and practice of Vādaśāstra in education department. शिक्षा शास्त्र विभागों को ये करना चाहिए। कहाँ तक वो
यस
पढ़ाते रहेंगे जो पश्चिम के सिद्धांत हैं एजुकेशन के, उनको पढ़ाते
जी
रहेंगे।
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल।
नेक्स्ट,
धन्यवाद सर।
Sir, if you permit me, today I would like to leave. Tomorrow I will come back.
I request Professor, can you spare 5-10 minutes?
Sir, actually, tomorrow I will speak. Today I have been observing, and if you allow me, tomorrow I can speak because today I have to travel now.
And you will return back tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I'm here. Yeah, again I'll come back.
Okay, I will find time for you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Yes.
You see, it is
Yes,
so
sir.
kind of you. Varkhedi had returned from Deoprayaga, a long journey, on 21st. Then he joined. He was so kind to join today. And again, he's leaving. I know. I have worked as Vice Chancellor in his university earlier. So I know how you have to travel, being a Vice Chancellor of that university. एक पाँव आपका दिल्ली में है और तुरंत दूसरा पाँव छलांग मार के आप उसी दिन एक मीटिंग खत्म करके फ्लाइट पकड़ने के लिए दौड़ते हैं. And this happens. So anyway, but we want to be benefited by your expertise. So let us have room for you tomorrow. If there is any other question, quickly before I invite now, because Varkhedi is not speaking, so we will have time. So before I invite Professor Rajaram Shukla, and I thank Professor Varkhedi if he is leaving. Okay.
Sir, one question. Do the Dharmashastras also fall in the category of Vāda?
Yeah, we will come to it in the next lecture tomorrow, because there are Vādas. Dharmashastras are great Vāda texts, any Smriti text. We will discuss it tomorrow. Any other?
Sir,
Regarding
what you
survey
told
question,
about
Prashna Sampannā.
Nagarjuna is actually very much old. Deconstructionist theory actually practice this kind of Vitandavad. So if you can illuminate on this topic, please.
You see, I am not an expert of Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna is a great philosopher. So the whole theory of, now we will have to go into intricacies. Their theory rests on apohavada, negation. So they establish any semantic theory on the basis of apoh. हम जो अर्थ समझते हैं किसी कैटेगरी से, मैंने कहा कि गाय है, सो गाय कहते ही मुझे गोत्र जातिमान पशु का बोध हो जाता है, तो नैयायिक कहेगा. जो बुद्धिस्ट है वो कहेगा कि गो शब्द से ये अर्थ निकली, इस अर्थ का बोध नहीं हो सकता है, क्योंकि वो अर्थ उस रियलिटी को नहीं बता सकता. हम किस प्रमाण के आधार पर कहेंगे कि गो कहने से जो पदार्थ है गो, उसका बोध होना चाहिए? इसके पीछे क्या तर्क है? कोई तर्क नहीं, हमने मान लिया कि होता है तो होता है. तो वो अपोहवाद की स्थापना करते हैं कि क्योंकि वो कुछ भी शाश्वत नहीं है, क्षणभंगवाद को स्वीकार करते हैं. तो कोई भी चीज स्थिर नहीं है, प्रतिक्षण वो भंग उसका होता है, प्रतिक्षण वो उदित होती है. तो इसलिए नेगेशन के आधार पर हम अर्थबोध करते हैं. इसलिए हर कैटेगरी को हम, जितनी तद व्यतिरिक्त कैटेगरीज हैं, all the categories apart from that category to be defined are to be negated, then we reach that category. So that is called apoh, theory of apoh. So their whole system or methodology proceeds on the basis of this idea of momentariness, theory of momentariness and apohavada. So they will negate everything. So they have to negate everything to reach the category to be known, which stands unknown. So reality stands appears in a flash. प्रत्यक्ष जो है एक झलक अपनी दिखाता है, और बाकी सारा जो आप नेगेट करते जाइए तब वो अपनी झलक दिखाता है। ये उपनिषदों में भी ये जो स्ट्रेटेजी है परम तत्व को बताने के लिए, दे हैव यूज्ड दिस स्ट्रेटेजी। नेति के द्वारा वो ये नहीं है, वो ये नहीं है, ऐसा कह करके वो उसको डिफाइन करते हैं। तो यही एक तरह से मेथोडोलॉजी वो यूज करते हैं। तो हर चीज को नेगेट करते हैं कि यह जो कहा जा रहा है ये नहीं है। जैसे सिंपल एग्जांपल मैंने दिया है कि जो आदमी चल रहा है उसको आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि वो चल रहा है, और कई कारण वो उसके बताते हैं। पहला सिंपल वैज्ञानिक कारण तो यही है कि धरती घूम रही है, वो आगे बढ़ रहा है आप नहीं कह सकते, क्योंकि धरती उधर जा रही होगी तो पीछे जा रहा होगा। तो कोई भी थीसिस जो है वो उसको रेफ्यूट करते हैं बहुत सारे आधारों पर। ये उनकी डिकंस्ट्रक्शन की मेथोडोलॉजी, जितना मैं मोटे तौर पर समझता हूँ। बाकी शुक्ल जी आपके सामने जो न्याय के वास्तव में विशेषज्ञ हैं वो बताएंगे। और कोई प्रश्न हो तो, नहीं तो अन्यथा हम प्रोफेसर राजाराम शुक्ल जी से अनुरोध करेंगे कि वो आज जितना विमर्श हुआ है
सर्वे प्रश्नाः सम्पन्नाः।
हाँ, now इदानीं शुक्ल महोदय